we need to talk about different kinds of chemical bonds. So a chemical bond will form if it results in a lowered potential energy between charged particles that compose the atoms. So we've got positive protons and negative electrons, and if this thing that happens, this bond, causes the 710. It's the train. It was a lot quieter yesterday afternoon. If there's a lowering in potential energy, the bond will form, otherwise not. So there's a complex set of interactions. We've got electrons that are repelling each other, we've got nuclei that are repelling each other, but we've got electrons of one atom that are attracted to the nucleus of the other atom. So we've got all these things going on. And if all of these reactions or interactions together result in a net reduction in energy, a bond will form. So ionic bonds are between ions. Right? So metals have low ionization energies. They lose their electrons. Fairly easy to form cations. Nonmetals have negative electron affinities. They like to gain electrons to become anions. So what happens here is that a metal atom will transfer electrons to the nonmetal. And when that happens, now we've got a positive ion and a negative ion, and all of a sudden they're super attracted to each other. So, ionic bond, we've got metal and nonmetal elements, and electrons are being transferred. There's a peek ahead. We've got covalent bonds and metallic bonds as well. Covalent bonds are going to be between nonmetals, just like the covalent or molecular naming was with nonmetals. Here the electrons are shared. Covalent, sharing of valence electrons. And metallic bonds happens in metals. So the covalent bonds is what happens when nonmetals interact. They're going to share some electrons. You're not going to get a transfer here because both nonmetals want to gain electrons. And so it's like, well, I want that electron, but I want it too. What do? You share it. Right? So the shared electrons then are interacting with both nuclei and holding those two atoms together. So the most stable, the lowest potential energy is when the shared electrons are between the two nuclei. And so, it's kind of like with people, if you share a dog or a house or children or something with another person, it brings you closer, right? Whether you like it or not, because you have this shared thing in common. Metallic bonding between metal atoms. Electrons will lose electrons easily, but none of the other metal atoms want them. So what happens is you get this sea of electrons, a big pool of electrons. And then those electrons are attracted to the nuclei, but not necessarily to any specific nuclei. And we'll talk more about metallic bonding later.